Hi and welcome back. If you have been following along here at CNNC, we have been going through a very exciting campaign about World Refugee Day, and the day is coming to an end. Just a reminder, World Refugee Day is June 20th, and we here at CNNC will have a physical party, but if you are somewhere else, I encourage you to learn more, to celebrate, and maybe get to know somebody that is not from here. Today we're here to talk about some frequently asked questions that has to do with immigration, not just refugees, but immigration in general. And before we get started, I just want to do a little disclaimer. This is general information, so it should not be taken as legal advice. Many of you know, or if you don't know, immigration law is very complicated and it's ever changing. So if you need advice for any case of your own, or you're curious about something, I highly encourage you that you find a lawyer or an accredited representative by the Department of Justice to seek advice about your specific case. Let's get started.
How long does the immigration or asylum process usually take?
Good question. And the answer is, it depends. So for the purpose of this video, let's talk about three things. Let's talk about asylum applications. Let's talk about green card applications through any of the options that are available. And let's talk about refugees. So asylum applications, we need to note that there's two different types of asylum applications that you can send in. One is presently in the United States and it's through USCIS. And that is for people that do not have a court date against them, basically. And that is called affirmative asylum. There's also a different type of asylum that is called defensive asylum, and this is for people that they have some case already pending, and a judge needs to review that, so it has to be within a court. For both of these, it really depends, honestly. It can take from 3 to 5+ years. It depends on where you come from, it depends on your personal history, and it depends on how backlogged the court or USCIS is. For family petitions or green cards to a family member, let's also pause here and talk about the fact that you can also get a green card through an employer and through other avenues if you are eligible for it. The most common one, though, is through our family members. So certain individuals that are either U.S. citizens or legal permanent residents can petition for family members. How long this lasts or takes to get processed, it depends on various aspects. It depends on what country you come from. It depends on the category, meaning how close related you are to that person. And it depends if either you're a citizen or an LPR or a legal permanent resident. So all that to say, it really is hard to say how much it can take for USCIS to have answer for you or the consulate where you're applying through. Lastly, let's talk about refugees. So refugees are people who come from a country that is at war or during extreme humanitarian crisis. A lot of people often walk to other countries to appeal to a UN office, United Nations, that's what that means. And they show up there and they get interviewed and they get placed in a refugee camp. Sometimes they can wait there for 2 years. Sometimes they can wait there for 20 years. It really depends also. And this specific group of people typically tends to wait the longest because it really also depends on how many refugees countries are taking. So the US takes a certain amount of refugees every year, but there's also other places that take people of this category. So it really depends. Timelines with USCIS, if you can take anything with this, USCIS in the court, if you can take anything from this video, is that it really depends on your information and it really depends on how much workload they have.
What happens if I apply to become a U.S. citizen and my application gets denied?
Very good question. The answer is, it depends. That's going to be a very common thing throughout this video. It depends on why you got denied. So actually, let's backtrack a little bit. If you are thinking of becoming a citizen or applying to become a US citizen, I highly recommend that before you do that, you talk to somebody that knows, either a legal representative or a lawyer. Because when you meet with them, they can look at your information and they can see if you are eligible for the benefit or not. And while doing that, you will prevent any denied or anything of that nature. Now, if you go through a legal representative, you still apply, you went to your interview, and you got denied, they will give you a reason. USCIS will not deny you based on just, oh, we don't want to. They will give you a specific reason, and they will quote the law in there. So, depending on what it is, and depending if that is the truth about you, you can either apply for an appeal if you think it was an unfair decision, or if it was a fair decision, then you'll have to take care of that issue first and then apply in the future if you're able.
Can I work or go to school while waiting for my immigration status?
It depends. And the reason why it depends is because depending on the application that you submit, you may be eligible to apply for a work authorization while that application is pending. So let's say I get here and I apply for asylum. Based on the application that is pending, I have the opportunity to apply for a work authorization based on that pending application. And that will be valid until the expiration date or until USCIS or the Immigration Court has a decision on my case. So it really depends. For school, it's a little bit trickier because in order to go to school here in the States, you typically have to have a specific visa that allows you to do that, or have permanent residency or some kind of permit that allows you to study while in the US. So typically, the work authorization is more feasible while your application is pending than going to school. Now, also important to note, it depends on what kind of schooling you want to do. But when you come to the United States, you have to make sure that you are doing the things that the US government allows you to do. So again, another common theme throughout this video is talk to somebody that knows.
How do I find trustworthy legal help or a representative for my case?
That's a very good question and a very important one. Because as many as you know, the immigrant community is very vulnerable, and because of that, we have some people that like to take advantage of that. So knowing who to trust is very important, especially these days. I think my best advice is, if you cannot find a lawyer or a representative yourself and you feel overwhelmed, first, find somebody that you trust, whether it's a friend, not to help you with immigration things, but to help you find somebody. Then my other suggestion would be, there are websites online that you can look up. You can look up people's credentials, you can look up people's information. And if you cannot do that because you're not tech savvy or anything, you can ask the legal representative you're working with themselves. Ask them, what kind of training do you have? For example, here in the US, notaries that are just notaries are not allowed or shouldn't be working on immigration and charging for it, immigration documents. So if you find somebody, just because they're a notary, that doesn't mean that they have the knowledge and the skills that you need in order for them to help you with the application. So ask important questions. Say, what kind of training do you have? Are you accredited by the Department of Justice? What kind of schooling do you have? And those are things that will help you make an informed decision on who to trust when it comes to that. Also, if you are working with a lawyer, ask them, what kind of law did you study? Lawyers are typically better because they have the schooling, and even if they didn't study specifically immigration law, they will be able to help you because they know law in general. However, we do know that lawyers are very expensive, or can be very expensive, and often very, very busy people. So I think my best advice, or our best advice, will be ask questions. Don't just trust anybody. Ask important questions. run it by people that you know. And at the end of the day, if you're not satisfied with any of that, find a different opinion. Find somebody else, and then take all of those things into consideration to make an informed decision of who you trust with your personal information and with your future.
How do I update my address or contact information with USCIS?
To update your address or contact information with USCIS, you can do it several different ways depending on what you have done. If you have an online USCIS or my.USCIS account, you can do it through the portal itself. I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe that that's the preferred method that they want, just because it's instant and it's clean and it's just through your computer. You can also send a form. I don't remember the name of the form right now, but Aldrin is gonna make sure that he writes it on the bottom. There's a form that you can fill out and send it to USCIS. And also, it depends on who you want to change your address with. USCIS, there's ways that you can do it. If you have immigration court, there's other things that you have to do. So also, it depends. But yeah, there are several different ways. I want to say, though, it is very important that you keep your information up to date with USCIS or with the immigration court, because if they have to communicate with you, whether it's for a case or for anything, they will send mail to you to the address that they have on file. And if it's not the correct one, you might miss some very important deadlines. So very important for you to do so.
Last question. What are my rights while waiting for a decision on my case?
Good question, and also a very important one. It is important to know that everybody in the United States has rights. Yes, some might be different depending if you are a US citizen or if you're here undocumented. But even if you are here undocumented, you have rights. And there are general rights, like the right to remain silent, the right to an attorney, the right for schooling, specifically for children. So it is important to know that you have rights. You also have the right to due process, meaning that you have the right for a fair hearing of your case. You also have the rights for medical care. This is specifically for children and some emergency situations for adults, but it depends. You might have to talk to a professional and see what you can appeal for. You also have the right to work, but only if it has been granted by USCIS. That goes back to our question that we had before of you can work. So you have the right to work if you qualify for a work permit, you apply for that work permit, and you have received that work permit and it's valid. It is also important to know that these rights, it will depend again on what you apply for and your personal information. Like asylum seekers and refugees have some rights that other type of immigrants don't have. So like with everything in this video, it is important that if you are looking for information or you're thinking of doing something, that you talk to somebody that knows. And the reason why we wanted to do this and talk to you today is because anything that you do today can affect your case, whether it's positively or negatively. So if you can take anything away from this video is please, if you can, find somebody that you trust and somebody that has the specific skills for immigration law to seek advice from. Whether you are thinking of applying for a benefit, an immigration benefit, or you have already applied for an immigration benefit, or you're an immigrant that are planning on applying for any other type of relief in the United States, it is important that you talk to somebody that knows, because they will be able to tell you if something is going to affect your case, whether it's negatively or positively, and they will be able to assist you and see things before they happen. So keep asking questions. If you need a place to start, whether you're in Cactus, in Dumas, in Amarillo, or somewhere else, you can contact our office. We are a legal recognized immigration site. We're part of a much larger legal network. It's called Immigrant Connections. So we should be able to at least direct you to a different office if we're not able to assist you here. Keep asking questions and keep learning, and we're here to help if you need anything.